Yeah, so there you go with the Lava Hound in the back. Obviously a risky play, and you take the Bandit dash. So what's going through your head right now?
So I'm thinking after I play that balloon, I'm now focused on defense. If I spend anything more on offense right now, I would just lose my King Towers. So I play the Barbs.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale, and I have my man Boss back on the channel. Boss, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Hey Ash, how's it going? I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing well. You are a CRL East pro player. You wake up at 4 a.m. to get your matches in. How you liking CRL, dude?
It's been nice, and I've also recently started school, so kind of just getting in, the routine right now, finding ways to, to manage my time.
Right.
Having to do CRL school and then also content creation. But
yes,
it's good so far.
I was gonna say, you've got some streams, you've got the daily uploads, you've got the every other day uploads, you've got CRL, and you've got school, man. I don't know how you do it, but you got some good time management skills, obviously, so keep it up, bro. Today we have you on talking about the top 5 decks in the game, and these are literally the top 5 decks in the game, meaning win percentage on ladder. These are the highest 5 win rates. So we're gonna go through them one at a time, and Boss, you're gonna give us your pro expertise, kind of breaking down how to play each of these decks successfully.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's start with P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam, which is the 5th most highest win rate out of all these decks. And break down, well, first of all, let's start here by talking a little bit about the state of P.E.K.K.A. and the state of Bridge Spam in general. We see a lot of Bridge Spam players moving away from P.E.K.K.A. A lot of players, I was talking to Carpy, aka Fat Cat, and he was telling me that he thinks P.E.K.K.A. is dead. I talked to other pros who say the P.E.K.K.A. is not dead. People are overreacting. Where do you stand? Obviously, statistically, it is 5th in the world, so not that bad, right?
So, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like every meta, it changes. Like, there's some metas where it isn't very good. There's some that it could be pretty viable. But I think it's the last couple of years have definitely been a deck where it's not a deck that's, OP or broken, I feel like, really in any meta. But it's one where if you play correctly, you can have success with it. And kind of how you brought up Carpy, he is considered the best P.E.K.K.A. player. And I think it's just been recently this year that he's gotten some top 10s with it earlier in the year. So I just think the last couple metas, maybe it's been struggling, partially because of the recruits getting buffed. I think recruits are really good versus P.E.K.K.A. And just overall, Heal Spirit was really strong, and P.E.K.K.A. decks didn't have Heal Spirit, so maybe that's a factor as well.
Okay, so take us back to this OG deck. I mean, all my viewers know this deck. First of all, is this the version that you prefer of this deck, or do you like the one with the Magic Archer instead?
I think the Magic Archer's, a little better, but if you obviously don't have, Magic Archer max, minions are for sure the best substitute, but I just think Magic Archer is better because it kind of serves as a, secondary win condition, and it's also good for baiting out, poisons, fireballs, and then, of course, as a win condition, as I said, just being able to play it at the bridge and get chip on the opponent's tower is really useful.
Okay. So, yeah, despite that, it still doesn't have higher win rates. Maybe it's just because this is the more popular deck, so more people play it in general. So, talk about a little bit of, strategy-wise. Bring us back to, this is not a new deck, certainly, but go over some of the fundamentals of P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam.
Well, I guess I'll start with, what a good starting play would be. So, I think the best starting play is Bandit in the back. It's usually what most people say as well who use P.E.K.K.A. Just a really safe starting play, forces something out of your opponent, and it's just really not that high of a risk. And kind of a good tip is, I see sometimes people go in for a battle ram and play a Royal Ghost behind. It's actually better to play the Royal Ghost in front because you kind of want to have something tanking for it, I guess, because it's invisible, if that makes sense. Same applies with the P.E.K.K.A. The Ghost should go in front, not behind it.
Okay, so give us an example of a situation in where you would put a Ghost in front of a battle ram.
Well, I guess it's also easy to do if you already have the Ghost down and you just play the battle ram behind it. And also another thing I'll say with this deck is split lane pressure is very good and useful, and you often need to do that in majority of matchups because it's difficult for your opponent to deal with the split lane spam.
So like bandit in the back first play is the ideal first play. Not bandit at bridge. Put your royal ghost in front of your P.E.K.K.A. or put your ghost in front of your battle ram if you're going to not behind in the split lane pressure, especially when you have the elixir advantage or your opponent's great counters are out of hand.
Exactly, yeah.
When, if ever, do you battle ram in the back?
I think a good time to do it would be if you're up elixir and you don't have a P.E.K.K.A. in cycle, because usually if you're up elixir, P.E.K.K.A. in the back is good. But if you don't, you could battle ram in the back and then give yourself time to support the battle ram. Maybe after cycling, you're back to P.E.K.K.A. and you can play P.E.K.K.A. at the bridge, especially if they played something in the other lane. Maybe it would be a good idea to apply pressure. Like maybe they, I don't know, played something heavy in the back, like a Lava Hound. Then I think it would make sense to do that.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Let's go to the next one. So deck number 2 is going to be Bait with Valkyrie. What the heck? Although I think that Valkyrie is like a pretty solid card. Maybe not in the pro scene, you don't see a lot of Valk, but I think in ladder, I think Valkyrie can be pretty serviceable. Do you like this version of Bait better, or do you like the classic, Knight log bait? Or do you like another one better?
So actually, I think this exact variant, the only difference is Knight instead of Valkyrie. I think that's one of the best log bait decks right now. I don't know if you've heard of a player named Bad Bunny, but I think it was 2 seasons ago, finished 5th or 6th in the world using log bait with this exact deck, and he had Tesla instead of the Inferno, so this variation here, just with Knight instead of the Valkyrie.
Okay, so why do you prefer Knight to Valkyrie? Obviously Knight's incredibly popular right now, so it might be obvious, but just the elixir cost differential plus just the overall utility you can get out of it?
Yeah, I think you don't really need the splash because you already have, the Princess, which deals splash, Ice Spirit deals a little bit, and then the Rocket. So I think it's just better to have the Knight just because it makes your overall cycle faster. And just after the Knight got that, I think it was a 5% hit points buff, it's just been, I think, a better option, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, with log bait, ideal starting play obviously is going to be just Goblin Barrel.
Yeah, but usually off to the side a little bit, just in case they have a tornado.
Okay. And do you talk about when would you go with a Valkyrie in Goblin Gang, like aggressively at the bridge? I know that either a Knight or a Valkyrie at the bridge with the gang. Is that just when when they don't have like their bar barrel or their login cycle?
If you're up in elixir, if they do something like Lava Hound or Golem in the back, I definitely feel like it would be a good play because they're going to be low on elixir, and you'll most likely take Tower if they're really low on elixir. And also, yeah, if they have their log out of cycle, and if you just know what they're running and they're going to have to spend a lot to defend it, it's a good play because it's something they can't ignore, and they're going to have to spend a lot of elixir defending.
Okay, sounds good. Any other fundamentals? If not, you can feel free to kind of walk us through your thought process here in this matchup.
I guess I'll just, go through this matchup.
Sure.
I think an important thing is saving if all possible, your Goblin Gang for the graveyard. And also something you can do is play Teslas to block baby dragons so it doesn't cross over and tank for the graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Do you play them? Do you play them in the lane, or do you play them more towards the center, like those preemptive Teslas?
Usually in front of the towers. Okay. That's how whatever lane they're going towards with their graveyard.
Okay.
And one other thing is, especially if your opponent has Bar Barrel, it's a really good idea to switch up your Goblin Barrel, because often your opponent, may once or twice during the game miss one of the goblins if you're playing it on the side, because the Bar Barrel has slightly less of a radius than the log does. Yeah. So it's always good to switch up.
So did you just switch the sides like randomly? You're still switching things up, obviously, and here's a nice rocket value for you. Boom. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And we saw that Tesla you were talking about too on that previous defensive sequence. What about Princess? What matchups make sense for... Or let me ask it this way. What matchups would you not use your Princess at the bridge for extra chip damage?
I feel like...
Or is it just situational in a match?
I see most bait players do that in most matchups, to be honest. I really am not sure if there's anywhere it would be too risky. I think maybe it would be risky if it's I think overall it gets more risky the later in the match it goes, because there's more going on and it's less likely the princess is going to get a lock on the tower. So maybe I would say it's overall something you do earlier in the game, like in single, double elixir. If you know your opponent's low on elixir, or just you think they're not going to expect it. But
how many hits does a princess have to get for you to consider it a successful princess at bridge? Like 1 or 2?
I mean, as it's good to get as many as you can, but I feel like 1 is good, especially if they have to just, spend 2, 3 elixir or more defending it. I think it's worth it. But if they just play skeletons on it, maybe that's not the best value, but I think it depends on the situation.
All right, makes sense to me, man. We're going to move on to 3 Musketeers. I have Osama coming on for an hour-long video to go over 3 Musketeers, giving a lot of kind of repetition in gameplay for you guys, so stay tuned for that video coming in a couple days. Today, we have a 3 Musketeer match. You against Mega Knight, too. Mega Knight NATO, maybe not the easiest matchup for you. Let's go ahead and press play on this one. 3, 2, 1, go. 3 Musketeers is back, man. Like I said, the 3rd highest win rate right now on ladder. Talk to us about 3 Musks. First of all, is 3 Musketeers with pump and 3 Musketeers with, like, what is your favorite 3? Is this your favorite 3 Musketeer deck? This is the one that has the highest win rate.
So I prefer, kind of like how you mentioned you're having Osama on the channel. I kind of prefer his variant with Fireball. I don't know why exactly I just feel like it works better. In this meta, there's been so much Fireball. I just feel like Fireball is such a useful spell in this meta. And I feel like 3M with no big spell. I don't know. I think it can be like difficult to break through in some matchups, or just you can't kill certain support cards, which can be annoying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can totally relate to that, and I also prefer that version of the deck. But this one's still really solid. What about 3 Musketeers without Royal Hogs? Do you think that those decks are dead?
I see some, occasionally, even at the top of ladder, a couple 3M players. They've probably been using 3M for a really, really long time, but I still occasionally do see some people running. It's 3M Hunter, I think Elixir Collector, and then they have the Battle Ram and maybe Bar Barrel, Snowball, Bandit, a couple other things.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 questions for you real quick. Number 1 is, if you're playing against 3 Musketeers, do you Fireball the King Tower and activate to get all 3 Musketeers if you're on defense, or do you just go for 2?
If it depends on what I'm using. If I'm using RG, I'll always Fireball and activate the King, because it doesn't matter if you're using RG as your win condition. But if you're using something like, say, where you actually need to get to the tower, maybe Giant or, I don't know, Hog, it kind of depends on the...
So like 2.6, you would not. But they can activate,
I don't think you should, because I feel like with 2.6, it's pretty easy to defend the 3M, because you have a really fast cycle. You can cycle back to another Fireball if you need to, and also you got Cannon and Log, so I don't think it's necessary to Fireball all 3.
Okay, my next question for you, or my last question, I guess, on 3 Muskie, is something that I often ask myself, because I love 3 Musketeers, and that is, what do you, during single elixir time, some 3 Musketeer players rarely play 3 Musketeers in single elixir time, because it's like a high risk, high reward, and if they have, they can punish you, right? Some players play it pretty often, like they'll start and play 3 Musketeers. So where do you fall in that camp, and why?
Personally, when I use 3 Musketeers Royal Hogs, I'll often play them in single, because sometimes with this 3M Royal Hog deck, you'll play Royal Hogs. At least that's what I like doing one of the first plays. And then with what they spend on the Royal Hogs, you can go for 3M on defense. Often, 2 Musketeers in the lane that you played Royal Hogs in, after they defend the Royal Hogs, because they're going to play something, and then you defend that, and then you can counter push with the 3M. That's what I do often in single.
Okay.
I think it's usually fine, but I personally am not someone who 3Ms first play the game. I don't like doing that.
If you have like a Hunter, Royal Hogs, Ice Golem, and 3 Muskie in hand, and they Golem first play, what do you do?
Ooh, I would probably go Royal Hogs opposite lane. And if they defend the Royal Hogs at all, that's really good because then they wouldn't have much to support the Golem. I would either go Hunter or I could go 3M, kind of around the tower. So if they have lightning, they can't lightning all of them. Maybe try to get an Ice Golem down to block the lightning.
Okay. So you would go 3M, same lane behind the tower, or hugging the tower, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
That would probably be the best.
I just get so scared they're going to have like a NATO baby D or something, and I'm still dead, you know? With those situations. But
you have to block with an Ice Golem.
Okay.
Probably in that case.
Good call. All right, deck number 2, which is actually classic log bait, or not a classic log bait. It's the one with the double, or I should say, Prince and Rascals. So why do you think this deck is better than classic log bait? Obviously, it's objective. I'm not saying which one do you like better.
I'm thinking I actually would say this one's a little bit. I'm not saying by a lot, but I think it's a little easier to play.
Okay.
Maybe that's why it's doing a little better.
I like that.
In the stats, because I feel it's more expensive. I feel like the playstyle is a bit different. I feel like this is a little bit more. I don't really know how to say it, but it has the Prince and Rascals in it, and I feel like it's more. You play it more aggressive. You just because you have the Prince, Dark Goblin, Goblin Gang, Barrel. It's way more aggressive because with the other one you have, I guess, the Tesla, so you're playing a bit more defensive, but this one, it's more aggressive, I think.
Okay. So, yeah, that's music to my ears. I'm an aggressive player to my detriment. So, how are you playing it? I mean, you said more aggressive, but like, in what other ways are you playing it any differently than you would classic log bait, or is the same general feeling? Is it basically the same?
I'm not too sure. I think
talk a little bit about like how we're playing the Rascals, I guess, in this deck.
Kind of, you can use them to tank for your Princess or Dark Goblin if they don't have a good spell in cycle. In this matchup, though, it was a little difficult to use them because he did have 3 spells.
Triple spell, yeah.
But I think, using them on defense and then kind of counter pushing with them is the best way to use them. I don't know if splitting them's too good of an idea because the one Rascal Girl usually can just be ignored. So usually I see most people bait players with the Rascals usually on defense will just play them all in one lane.
Okay. Get that spell out of their hand and then you can attack with whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of bait in this deck. I mean, there's more than your traditional bait deck because some people are apt to use like a log or whatever to stop the Prince's charge. But most importantly, there's the Princess, the Dark Goblin, the Goblin Gang, the Rascals. 4 bait cards in this deck. There's a lot of bait.
Yeah, there is.
And then you rocket here. Talk a little bit about rocketing with this deck. Is that something that you're only going to do towards the end of the match or anytime you have value? Or what is your stance on rockets?
So in single, usually with any rocket deck, you have to be pretty cautious with playing a rocket in single, just because you can be punished really easily. But in this particular match, really the only thing I would rocket is probably the Musketeer Prince, and in double, pretty much any time he plays a Prince behind the tower, as long as I have Elixir, I'd rocket it because. Okay. It gets some good value, and I feel like even after rocketing, it's pretty easy to defend because I have so many defensive cards.
Yeah, no doubt. And so interesting that you rocket Princes as well, too. What about the Dark Goblin? When are you going to do you ever Dark Goblin at bridge for chip or no?
I don't know. I think in some matchups you do, but there's some where you need to save it for defense.
Okay.
I feel like it's a good counter push card, and you compare it with things like maybe play the Rascals in front of it, or the Goblin Gang or something, or pair it with the Goblin Barrel.
Okay. Sorry, just really enthralled with this match here, trying to see how you pull this one off. And you go Princess at bridge there. Didn't get a hit, I don't think, but unable to protect the Dark Goblin. What's going through your match, your head, excuse me, at this point in the match? Well, I guess victory, right? I guess what's going through is, there you go, you win. Lava Loon, Lava Miner. Is this your favorite Lava Miner deck? Let's press play in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, I think right now this is the best Lava Miner deck. I see most people use Lava Miner use this variant. I just think it, I don't know. I just think it in this meta it's good. I don't see much, Lava Miner Poison anymore or Fireball. It's usually with arrows and zap.
Yeah, it works really well, and you're right. This is definitely the deck that I see everywhere in terms of, if I'm going against lava, it's this deck with the Barbarians in there as well. Why Barbarians in there instead of, other like Tombstone, more traditional Lava Loon ground cards?
I guess it's because, it's for baiting out the spells, because if they Fireball the Barbarians, you can use the Skeleton Dragons.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, I think you get a little bit of counter push off of them, and what some people do is they'll often pair a Balloon, with the Barbarians. Some people think with Lava Loon you're always playing Balloon with the Lava Hound, but you sometimes can pair it with, other cards, like the Skeleton Dragons and the Barbarians, if they don't have a good, counter and cycle, or if you have a good counter push.
Yeah, like one of the things about this deck though is you don't have. Oh, excuse me. I haven't been up since 4 a.m., but apparently I feel that way. So one thing about this deck though is you only have the Miner and the Barbarians as ground cards. So are you using Miner a lot on defense, especially against like aggressive ground decks?
Yeah, I think
like right here, maybe.
Like here, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But then I kind of give up my tower here because he committed a Fisherman.
Yeah. So with a deck like this, I guess, especially with the lack of ground kind of options on defense, I guess you have to go into every match with the mentality that, hey, you might have to give up a tower or tower trade, right?
Oh yeah, with this kind of deck, it's, I think I've said before, I think it was when we were ranking the decks in a previous video, but I was talking about how this lava deck, it's pretty easy to play because one thing that you're always going to do is, if you have a Lava Hound in your starting hand, just lava first play, and you shouldn't be afraid to give up towers, okay. just as you said, just like you said. And it's definitely a deck that it never usually goes into a situation where one person takes a tower, and it's game over after that.
1-0 match.
Yeah, it's usually typically going to be in a 2-tower situation, or someone 3-crowning someone. That's just usually how this deck works.
Yeah, and this is a tricky, I feel like it's a tricky matchup, at least, to my untrained eyes, because again, he has Fireball for your Barbs and your Skeleton Dragons, and he has so much ground pressure, and you don't have a lot of options here. So in a situation like this, you're never going to Lava Hound preemptively because he could just spam you to death. So are you just continuing to cycle cards in the back? Okay, now you Lava Hound, I guess. My bad.
Yeah, I did it because he had his Bandit out of cycle.
Okay.
And I knew that if I just kept playing defense, eventually he was going to keep chipping me, and I would just lose if I never built a lava push. So I knew I had to get something going. But you're right, it's definitely, difficult because the Ramrod is just so good against the Balloon. And then he's got Musketeer, Ewiz to reset the Inferno Drag, and then Fireball, which gets him a lot of value. So it's a little tough for sure.
Yeah, so there you go with the Lava Hound in the back. Obviously a risky play, and you take the Bandit Dash. So what's going through your head right now?
So I'm thinking, after I play that Balloon, I'm now focused on defense. If I spend anything more on offense right now, I would just lose my King Tower. So I play the Barbs, and now that I know he has his Bandit and Ramrod out of cycle, I go for the Balloon in the pocket.
The double Loon.
That's where I overwhelm him. And then look at I think the Inferno Drag 3 crowns him. Yeah.
Wow, Inferno Drag gets the finishing blow. All right, boss. Well, those are the top 5 decks in the game right now. GG's on those matches. Thank you for playing them all with all those 5 decks. If you had to win one deck for all of CRL East Championship or $1 million out of these 5 decks, which would you choose, boss?
Okay.
Pick up and spam the 2 versions of bait, the Lava Loon, and the what was the other one?
Well, there's the 2 baits, P.E.K.K.A, 3M.
3M, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think I'd go with 3M or the Lava Loon deck, just because I think I find them to be a little bit better in the meta, and I also think, log bait. I'm not, I haven't mastered it yet, so it would be risky to use.
All right, well, hey, boss, thanks for joining us on the channel, guys. A great time right now to go follow boss on his Twitch channel, his YouTube channel, and his Twitter information. All that information, along with the stats, statsrel.com, will be in the show notes below, along with all 5 of these deck links. Go ahead and try them out. Try swapping cards out. Boss gave a lot of different suggestions in terms of substitutions, for a lot of these cards. Boss, thank you so much for joining us again, man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks again for having me.
No problem, guys. A huge shout out to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Thank you for using creator code BOSS inside your Supercell shop. And as always, take care, guys.